Hello, my name is Trisha. I'm this year's community service coordinator, and my pronouns are she, her, hers. And my
Hi,
major is
everyone.
biochemistry and molecular biology. Sorry, go.
It's okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Josiah Mayor Jazz for short. I'm also one of the community service coordinators this year. I'm a third year global disease biology major. And yes. So this is just a breakdown of what we'll be discussing today. So as you can tell, we got a little too excited at coming up with the names for all the different sections. But on the first, we'll be having an icebreaker followed by circulatory system, and then CVD signs and symptoms and causes, followed by the CVD types, then CVD in the Filipinx community, prevention, resources, and lastly, we'll be testing you on what you know after this presentation. So yes, if you know the translations to this, if you don't, it's fine. We'll be translating it too for y'all, so you'll get the joke behind the names. But yeah, we'll be starting off with an icebreaker. So CJ, take it away.
Okay, so now, okay, okay, cool. So now we're gonna talk about the circulatory system. So, as many of you, can you hear me? Wait, 'cause- okay. As many of you know, so the circulatory system is the body's transport system. The heart actually has four chambers and four main blood vessels that either carry blood away from and towards the heart, and the heart pumps the blood, and the arteries and veins transport it. And so there's actually a right and left side of the heart, and they work together to transport the blood away from and into your heart. And the four chambers are the right atrium, the right ventricle, and the left atrium and the left ventricle. And the blood vessels include the superior vena cava and the inferior vena cava, pulmonary artery, and the aorta. So I just wanted to clarify that the arteries, veins, and capillaries are actually all different kinds of blood vessels. The capillaries connect the arteries to the veins. The arteries carry the oxygenated blood away from the heart, and the veins carry the blood back to the heart. So I'll be explaining how the blood flows to your heart. So if you just follow the diagram, so we can start with the right side, which is the blue oxygen port. It's like the blue area in the heart. That's so the blood enters the heart through two large veins, the inferior vena cava, which comes from the lower extremities, such as your abdomen or your pelvis. And from the top, the blood could come from your upper extremities, and it goes through the superior vena cava. And this blood is actually oxygen poor, and it goes into the right atrium. So then the blood flows from the right atrium into the right ventricle through the open tricuspid valve. So when the ventricles are full, though, the tricuspid valve closes in order to prevent the blood from flowing back to the right atrium while the ventricle is contracting or squeezing. And then the blood leaves the heart through the pulmonic valve into the pulmonary artery and into the lungs. So now we're going to switch gears to talk about the left side of the heart, which is the oxygen rich blood. And in the picture, it will be the red colored area. And so the pulmonary vein, it transports the oxygen rich blood from the lungs into the left atrium. And then the blood would travel from the left atrium into the left ventricle through the open mitral valve. And similar to the tricuspid valve, when the ventricle is too full, the mitral valve closes in order to prevent blood from flowing back to the left atrium while the ventricle is contracting or squeezing. And then the blood leaves the heart through the aortic valve into the aorta and into the rest of your body. So, fun fact, aorta is actually the largest blood vessel in the human body. And an aneurysm can actually occur when there's an abnormal enlargement or bulging of the wall of the aorta. So all this process is actually repeated, causing blood to flow continuously into your heart and into your lungs and into the rest of your body. Next slide, please. So just to quickly summarize what I've said, I know there was a lot of terms. So the right side of your body, it receives oxygen poor blood from your veins and pumps it into your lungs where it picks up oxygen and gets rid of carbon dioxide. And then the left side of your heart receives the oxygen rich blood from your lungs and pumps it through your arteries and the rest of your body. So if you look at the diagram on the left, the blue section is actually the right side, and then the red area is your left side, which pumps the oxygen rich blood. Next slide. So now we're gonna talk about the risk factors and the symptoms. It's called achy breaky heart, this section. Um, okay, so the signs and symptoms can include chest pain, chest tightness, chest pressure, and chest discomfort, also known as angina, and shortness of breath. There's also pain, numbness, weakness, or coldness in your legs or your arms if the blood vessels in those parts of your body are narrowed. And there's also pain in the neck, jaw, your throat, upper abdomen, and your back. So it's also important to note that you may not be diagnosed with cardiovascular disease until you have a heart attack, angina, stroke, or heart failure. And studies have also shown that women, they often experience atypical symptoms such as shortness of breath, pressure pain in the lower chest or upper abdomen. There's dizziness, lightheadedness, or fainting, and extreme fatigue, and they're less likely to be diagnosed with cardiovascular diseases, making it the number one killer of women in the United States. So I've also read some stories where I researched a bunch of articles where women are often misdiagnosed and they're sent home because of these atypical symptoms that they're experiencing. So they're also put at higher risk for cardiovascular diseases. And some of the risk factors may include age. So as you grow older, it increases your risk of damaged and narrowed arteries and also weakens and thickens your heart muscle. And for gender, men are generally greater at risk of developing heart diseases. But like I was talking about earlier, though, women are often misdiagnosed because of their atypical symptoms. So they're often put at high risk of developing cardiovascular diseases or other health related problems. And as for family history and genetics, also increases your risk of coronary artery disease, especially if your family or your parents develop it at an early age. As for smoking, the nicotine tightens your blood vessels, and carbon monoxide can damage their inner lining, making it more susceptible to atherosclerosis or the buildup of fats and cholesterol on your artery walls, causing plaque, which can restrict blood flow. And as for obesity, the excess weight typically worsens the other heart disease risk factors, and it also goes hand in hand with lack of exercise. So physical inactivity could cause other risk factors to worsen. And then there's the high blood pressure and high blood cholesterol levels. So uncontrolled high blood pressure can result in hardening and thickening of your arteries, narrowing the vessels through which your blood flows. And as for blood cholesterol in your blood, it could increase the risk of plaque formation and atherosclerosis. And as for stress, stress is actually another risk factor. I know a lot of us are stressed. And if this stress is unrelieved, it may damage your arteries and worsen other risk factors for heart disease. And last but not the least is poor diet. So a diet that's high in fat, salt, sugar, and cholesterol can contribute to the development of heart diseases. And CJ will actually be talking to you guys more about like healthier alternatives for Filipino diet or just diet in general.
So we're going to transition to the different types of CVD. So there are actually many different types of CVD, but the four main types are coronary heart disease, stroke and TIAs, peripheral arterial disease, and aortic disease. So coronary heart disease is the influx of oxygen-rich blood to the organs of the heart is blocked or diminished. So what usually causes a blockage of the heart is consuming a lot of fatty foods and foods that are high in cholesterol. So the term for the buildup of fats and cholesterol is arteriosclerosis. And when you break that down, sclerosis is the hardening and artero is the yellowish plaque. So it's the yellowish hardening of the artery walls. So the different types of coronary heart disease are angina, which is chest pain caused by restricted blood flow to the heart muscle, heart attack, or where the blood flow to the heart muscle is suddenly blocked, heart failure, where the heart is unable to pump blood around the body properly. So next is stroke and TIAs. So stroke is when a part of the brain's blood flow is shut off, which can cause brain injury and likely death, whereas a TIA, or a transient ischemic attack, is when the blood flow to the brain is only temporarily disrupted. So the main difference between the two is that TIAs are temporary, and the blockage to the blood flow is usually lasts no more than 5 minutes, whereas a stroke is much more deadly and is permanent. So when it happens, it happens. But one thing to know is that TIA is a warning sign of a future stroke. So keep on a lookout for that. So next is peripheral arterial disease. It is a blockage in the arteries to the limbs and usually the legs. And some of the symptoms a person usually feels when they have peripheral arterial disease is dull or cramping leg pain, which is worse when walking and gets better with rest, and hair loss on the legs and feet. There are other symptoms for peripheral arterial disease, but these are the two main ones. Next is aortic disease, and it is a category of diseases that affects the aorta. And as mentioned by Trisha earlier in the previous slide, the aorta is actually the largest blood vessel in the body. So for the aortic disease, one of the main diseases for aortic disease is aortic aneurysm. So aortic aneurysm is where the aorta becomes weakened and bulges outwards. And what's so scary about aortic aneurysm is there are actually no symptoms for it. So it's really scary. So you have to just be always go get checked by a doctor if you feel like there's no symptoms. So you just have to be on the lookout. So next is basically there's an acronym for how to spot a stroke. So the acronym is FAST. So F stands for face drooping, A is for arm weakness, S is for speech difficulty, and T is for time to call 911. And if you were in our health workshop last year, Dr. Moya was our keynote speaker, and he actually led, he started a project called the PANSIN Project, which stands for Filipino American Stroke Intervention. And what's so cool about the name PANSIN is actually, you translate the Tagalog word PANSIN to English, actually translate to notice. So these are just some of the things that you should notice on how to spot a stroke because it is deadly. So we don't have time to watch the video right now, but we can share the slides with y'all so you can watch the video on your own time. So 1 in 6, so here's just statistics about heart disease in the Filipino American community. So 1 in 6 Filipinos are affected by heart disease, and 1 in 3 Filipino Americans are affected by heart disease. 20% heart-related deaths occur in the Philippines are heart-related deaths. And you can find more statistics on the website that Stanford has. We'll also make sure you can access that later. And so this is Pusong Bato, or if you know the song, it's a Filipino song, you can search it up. But yeah, this is basically, we'll be talking about CVD in the Filipinx community. So Filipino Americans have a 70% higher chance of diabetes as opposed to their Asian American counterparts, and hypertension can grow in the Filipino Americans age 50 and over, raising the risk of CVD. So if you're in a higher risk if you have diabetes. So it's very important that if you that you check your blood glucose routinely and also check your blood pressure, make sure it's in a good range. And in 2017, 50,500 Filipinos were impacted by ischemic heart disease, also known as coronary heart disease. And you might be wondering, why is this happening? So the high rates of CVD and different cancers in the Filipinos and Filipino Americans have been increasingly associated with health habits such as alcohol consumption, smoking, and poor diet and nutrition. So when you go to the office or clinic or hospital setting, typically the doctors will ask you about your social history. So they ask you about your tobacco use, your alcohol consumption, and your diet. So some statistics about tobacco use is that 28% Filipinos smoke versus 17% Filipino Americans smoke. For alcohol consumption, 80% of Filipino American men and 50% of Filipino American women commonly consume alcohol, compared to 13% of Filipino men and 6% of Filipino women. And as for diet, most Filipinos consume a lot of high in carbs, cholesterol, and salt intake. And AHA, or the American Heart Association, typically recommends 1.5 grams of salt intake daily, but Filipinos consume 12 grams. So that's 8 times the amount of that's typically recommended. So, but let's dig a little bit deeper as to why this might be the case. So there are social determinants that play a role in this, such as socioeconomic status, which affects your accessibility for food, schooling or the lack of education, culture or the religion. You might normally hear about when someone is feeling sick. Filipinos will say the term bahala na or leaving it to God. So in most cases, religion can also play in a role in how whether the person may or may not go to the hospital to get checked. And physical climate, such as the neighborhoods. So if you live in a neighborhood that's you're surrounded by fast food places, you're more likely to go to a fast food than go to a grocery store and to make your own meal. And also other things such as networks of jobs and social assistance, as well as access to healthcare. You also should have to consider whether or not they have transportation to go to a hospital, because some people may not have a car or they have the money to pay for, an Uber. So these are just some of the things that you need to keep in mind. But what I'm asking you is, what can you do in your own capacity to lower your risk of heart disease? So what you can do is you can focus on your improving your heart health through exercise and through choosing the right diet. So CJ will be talking more about that.
Hi, everyone. So for this part, we're going to talk more about tips in staying healthy. 3 different ways would be limit alcohol consumption and engaging in active pursuits or just physical activity, and sticking to more low-fat, mostly just a balanced diet. Next slide. Okay, so for nutrition, at the beginning, I want to talk about white rice. White rice is a very superior dish that lots of Filipinos love to partake in. It's something that a lot of people like to take. The only problem is white rice is filled with tons of sugar, and based on our portion sizes, we tend to eat a lot more than what typically we're supposed to eat daily. And because of that, the amount of sugar that we intake every day is a lot bigger and not as healthy for long term. Different ways that we can substitute that would be bringing it with brown rice instead. So it can be at a lower sugar rate than white rice, and just overall more healthy fiber, and just helping out with whole wheats and lowering down the amount of sugar you take per day, especially since white rice is really good. No doubt, it's really good. Though, since the amount of sugar that's in it and the amount of portion sizes today that we don't really look at, it can be very detrimental for our health in our future. Some specific Filipino dishes that you might want to look into that's more on the healthy side is laing. It's dried taro leaves. It's a good source of like vitamin B or just vitamin C. It's like a good source of fiber and potassium. There's also ensaladang talong. It's eggplant. It's an eggplant salad. It's could be served with meat, but it's like very good as a vegetarian dish. There's pinakbet, which is a healthy vegetable stew filled with like different squashes, tomatoes, just really rich in fiber and the vitamins and minerals. And kare kare, one of my little brother's favorite, it's actually a peanut dish where it's a stew, which it's a combination of oxtail and vegetables. Now, for nutrition specifically, it doesn't just have to be about Filipino dishes. The main things you need to think about is decreasing your overall sugar intake throughout the week, or just in your diet in general. Try to focus on making it a lifestyle choice of what you're trying to eat, instead of just doing it for the now. Because if you do it for like maybe set a goal for 2-3 weeks, I'm going to do this. If you don't continue doing that same thing as consistently as you should, you're not really making the gains. You're probably going to get back all the unhealthy habits you were taking before. So just trying to make a habit of that. Look for foods that are high in fiber. There's a lot of people that when they eat lots of fast food, which is really bad if you keep eating it every day, because it could have less or not a lot as much fiber. So you can be constipated, and constipation is like really bad for overall body and being able to take out waste products. And it's also really just the experiences, not, it's pretty difficult to go through, but we'll get more into it. But when you thinking about eating out, you have to realize the amount of butter and the amount of sugar that they're actually putting into the dishes that you're cooking, that they're cooking for you. Each of these can have tons and millions of different calories from like tons of like a whole stick of butter can be like in one of your dishes and you don't even know about it because it tastes good, but you don't realize how much of those extra calories is given to you. That's why you don't really give out calories when you're giving out dinners at menus or different restaurants. Um, Another thing is finding a meal plan that works for you. Not a lot of people realize that like everyone's different. Whatever works for some person doesn't really work for you. There's not a end all be all when it comes to diet. You have to like work here and there, look at what works for you, and just being consistent. Consistency is key when it comes to being healthy on your nutrition and just your overall um, temple or life goal. So something really need to say is that when you eat these bad foods and when you eat fast food, it's okay. It's fine. We're human. It's okay to eat these like small like sugars, these big like pancake meals because like it's fine. But just remember to enjoy it in moderation, and that those big meals is for that time only. Like after that day, you should be able to be like, hey, it's okay. I'll just set up another time, maybe next week or maybe 2 weeks. Don't make it everyday thing, because then you probably won't even like the food anyways. You have to be able to mix and match and find a balance of what you're eating. Next slide, please. Okay, to get into more specifics about the salt, not a lot of people realize how much salt you're actually supposed to get. It's only between like 1,500 to 2,300, as you can see from this. But the average amount that people take is 3,400. That's more than double the recommended amount usually. And lots of this stuff is from different things that you don't even think about. Like, oh, I'm just get some pizza. You don't realize that the amount of salt in that one pizza is like basically your whole daily value. It's all gone. And a tip I would give out to realize just how much salt is in the fast food that you're eating is like cook small meals on the side, or learn to start small, like maybe cook a couple eggs here and there. You realize that like even without any salt, it tastes great because it already has the salt value into it. That's what gives it its sodium. That's what gives you your sodium intake. But because you don't realize that and you don't really feel the difference in salt, you actually overeat over the amount, which is actually pretty bad for your overall health. So just keep in mind what the different amounts of salt or different amounts of mm, how much sugar is in the food that you're eating and how that's affecting you and your body, because your body's a temple. Like you don't want your body to feel bad, you don't want your body to feel good, and eating different fast foods might be a major indication, or it might be a major effect on why you're feeling a type of way or why your body's not having as much energy throughout the day. So just keep that in mind. Next slide, please. So exercise. I love talking about exercise, so I won't ramble as much, but specifically for the different exercises for the heart, we're gonna focus more on the aerobic exercises. So like this can include walking, running, biking, jumping rope, jumping jacks, burpees. And this is all to increase the amount of oxygen that you can really take in. Like your overall fitness, your overall capacity to use the oxygen that you take in. Walking is very simple. You can do like 10 to 15 minutes a day or even 5 minutes. Just do it in your own time. Try to schedule it and just be consistent, because consistency is key. And you can go on a run. Running's great. You don't have to be that long. You can put it into your schedule and just make sure that's short. Biking is fun. We all go to Davis. Davis is a very biking school. It's how we get around the campus. So something simple as like going on the bike ride, it can be very good for your mental and for your physical. Jumping rope is very good. You don't really need the jump rope to have it. You can be jumping in place that you like 10 minutes for the like, what happened? And you're like, oh, because you're moving, your body needs it, and you feel great afterwards. Um, these okay, specifically, I think for people that are living above other people, like apartments where they're like much for down below, a specific exercise I can give you would be, um, it's called lifting your legs up at the same time. It's high knees, but instead of actually jumping, you're just slowly lifting where to the point where you feel sort of like you're breathing in a little heavy. Another thing that my mom does actually is that she to specific walking or Zumba classes that she just watches on her TV. And you can just follow one of those where you're just walking in place. 30 minutes, my mom would be like, "Oh, that was so exhausting." And I see her, she's like sweating. I'm like, "Are you okay? What'd you do?" She's like, "Oh, I was just walking in. Like, really? Like, I didn't hear you. Like, were you actually exercising?" She's like, "Yeah, I was just walking in place." So simple stuff like that is good for you, especially since not a lot of us have been going out or really getting the exercise that we need to be beneficial for our health. Now, like this is just suggestions if you want a better physique or just something that's easy to do and build your way up. You can do push-ups, sit-ups, squats, and pull-ups. And people have a pull-up bar, but a good majority of people have a door. And if you like just stabilize it correctly, you can do pull-ups on the door. So that's just small stuff you can do. Consistency is key. Make sure you do it at your own pace. Don't overwork yourself, or you won't do it anymore afterwards. So take your time, build up, and eventually you get to a point where like you feel that you're feeling yourself. You're being fit. You're being healthy on your lifestyle and healthy on your overall goals for the future. So just next slide.
Okay, so the heart you deserve is a healthy heart, right? So here's some helpful resources for you. So one helpful resource is taking a NUT 10V, which is a class here at UC Davis. It's Discoveries and Concepts of Nutrition. It's an easy GE class, and I'm actually taking this class right now. And there's actually a section for heart health, which is titled Keep Your Heart Healthy with the Right Food. I really like the class because I'm learning so much about how the food I'm consuming is actually really bad and high in calories and high in fat. So by taking this class, it really helps me track, keep in mind the food that I'm eating, making sure that I'm choosing the right healthy food that are more rich in greens. And so if you have some space in your spring quarter class, I highly recommend you taking a 10V. Another helpful resources is applying for CalFresh benefits. So you should check your My Awards if you qualify. Usually there's like a notification on top of your My Awards that says whether you qualify or not. And if yes, you could apply on the CalFresh website. It's super easy, super quick. You just have to input a little bit of information and then you're done. And after you apply, you're actually gonna be called by one of the not the YOLO. Well, if you're applying for in the Davis area, you're gonna get an interview from the Yolo County asking you more information about yourself and all the documents that you provided. And if you are EOP student or first generation college student or work study eligible, then you are almost guaranteed to receive benefits. So I highly recommend you apply. And once you do get your CalFresh card, you can use it to buy anything you want to buy in the grocery market. But it can't be any hot foods. It has to be like foods are like vegetables, like meat. You can buy almost everything with it. And I highly recommend it if you're also in a budget, and you can also choose healthier food alternatives if you have CalFresh, the card. Next is the ASUCD pantry. And so the pantry is located adjacent to the Aggie Campus and MU Market. So you just bring your student ID to receive 3 nutritional meals, food items, or toiletries. The ASUCD pantry is actually open during this pandemic, and they've been providing so many resources for students who are they need some, foods. Like they also provide like menstrual products too, I believe. So I highly recommend that you check this place out. And also what's not listed here actually is Philam Fitness. You should follow CJ and his group of friends, the Philam team, Philam Fitness team. You should follow them on Instagram at Philam Fitness. They do lots of exercises. They also do like meal prep videos too. And on Sundays, CJ actually does yoga, yoga Sundays. So if you need, some relaxation before you start your week, then check the yoga thing out. So now we're gonna be moving on to testing what you know. So Trisha, do you wanna
Yeah, so I'll be
get
sharing
the
my
Kahoot?
screen. Yeah. So now we're gonna do a Kahoot to see if you guys were listening. I'm kidding. It's just a fun little game. Wait, let me share. Can you see it? Oh wait, I think I have to share the video too. Wait. I'm gonna go ahead and start it. Okay, yeah, it's muscle. Like earlier, I was talking about arteries, capillaries, and veins are all different types of blood vessels. Okay, we have I'm eating fries. That's, yeah. It is true. Okay. Okay, Chloe, I see you. What is angina? Angina is chest pain or chest discomfort. Yeah. Who who can that be? Which of this is a heart disease? You're listening to yeah, so all of them, all of age as you grow older, heart, like the risk factors become worse, and also high blood pressure and smoking as well. True or false? TIAs, when blood flow to the brain, is only temporary. this portion. Okay, so which of these is not part of the fast food sign? It was actually all correct except shortness of breath. The S is for speech. That one was confusing. Filipino Americans have a 20% higher chance of diabetes as opposed to their Asian American. If you were listening, it was actually 70%. Yeah, that one is a little confusing. Okay, Raf. What are some of our tips to stay healthy? Okay, yeah, if you only read like the red and the green, then you would pick none of the above, but it's engage in active pursuit. Yeah, me too with the red. I feel you. I thought it was the last one. So brown rice is higher in sugar than white rice. Yeah, so brown rice is actually lower in sugar than white rice, like CJ was talking about earlier. I think it's our last question. What is a lechon and halo halo? Halo halo is actually the dessert. Yeah, and then lechon is fatty. And salang talong is the eggplant salad, so that's the one. And chicken adobo is also fatty. Let's see who's in the podium. Well, Chloe. Is it Ralph? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that one was 70%. Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing. Yeah, okay. I hope you guys had fun with the Kahoot. And now CJ is going to talk about how heart health affects the Black community. I mean, heart diseases. Ko, can you share the
Oh my god, I was like, oh, I thought I already shared it, but yes, I'll share it right now. Do y'all see it? Okay.
Okay, so for this slide, we just wanted to acknowledge that it's Black History Month, and we just wanted to quickly talk about the impact of heart health in the Black community. Oh, it's okay. So one of the facts is that nearly 48% of African American and 44% African American men have some form of heart disease. That's especially pretty high. That's literally almost 50% of the community is suffering through different types of heart diseases. Another thing is that research has found that even like among the middle and like upper class community, the rate of heart disease among the Black Americans is still greater than in the white Americans who have uh, incredibly higher socioeconomic status. So just from that, you can see like the huge difference in how heart health has, or how disease has hardly affected the Black community. Another thing is that a common condition that increase the risk of heart disease and stroke among the Black Americans are high blood pressure, obesity, and diabetes, especially with the amount of fast food that Americans eat today. We can really see the huge amount for portion sizes that differ compared to like other countries. An example can be like how in Japan, their large burgers over there are medium. So that's a good indication of how our portion sizes are a lot bigger than all the other countries. And I think that's a big indicator of what we need to be a lot better at, seeing our portion sizes throughout the day and figuring out what exactly is a good amount of food for us to eat in our bodies and our calorie deficits. I wanted to reiterate that since it is Black History Month, that it should be a time where we learn about the history of the impacts of the Black community in our history, and what had the different events and the different times of struggle or different times of research and accomplishments that has been achieved over time, and just re-educating ourselves with the different communities in America. Yeah, thank you. Next slide.
Okay, everyone, so that's the end of our presentation. So if you want to get in touch with us, we included the website for our fact page, and also for Instagram and Facebook. We all included that information right there. So we do want to open it up for any questions. If you all have any questions with our presentations or just in general regarding fact or the heart health. If you have any questions right now.
Any takers? Window is open and it's closing, closing, closing. Okay. We want to thank everybody for showing up to our workshop.